Okay, so today we're going to do conveyance design. With that, I'm going to go through how to create a simple network with Civil 3D, and I'm going to focus on taking that data into HydroFlow and editing it there, and then round-tripping the data back into Civil 3D as many times as you want. Now, so we're not going to only be using Civil 3D today, but we're also going to be using HydroFlow and a couple Excel spreadsheets we generated here. Brandon Harner actually created here in the Harrisburg office to facilitate the streamlining of the data back and forth. So with that, let's get started. In Civil 3D, if you're going to start creating a pipe network, it's real, it's pretty straightforward. You just go up to pipes here, and the pipes pull down, and we're going to do create pipe network by layout. So go ahead and click that. You can name your pipe network, of course. A little different from Land Desktop is Civil 3D is it's all the pipes are one big network. It's not pipe runs. So really how I sort of name these is storm or sewer or water. You name them the utility. That's a convention I've been using. You're going to do it for the entire site of the same thing. Now, if you have multiple groups working on a project, and say you have storm or land development groups doing, and there's some storm lines out in the street that the highway group's doing, or something like that. So you'd have two different networks just because they have two different files. You might want to take that into account, so maybe call it storm site or something like that. This, you can put a little description of it here as well. It's always useful and helpful to help people know what's going on there. The network parts list is really the same thing as in Land Desktop. You had certain parts to use. Except in Civil 3D, they're more realistic, and also they're more intelligent, and you have a lot more to choose from. So in here, you choose the network part list that makes sense for you. Today, we're going to be doing storm, since we're doing conveyance design, and we're going to be doing exist or proposed. And any of these settings you can change at any time. The surface name, this is the surface that all the top of grade inlets are going to be set by, so we're going to go ahead and hit that for finish grade, because we're going to just add some inlets in here. An alignment name, structure label styles, and pipe label styles. Alignment name is going to associate any given structure or pipe with a certain alignment. And typically in storm design, you wouldn't have just one alignment. It would be nice, but it doesn't work that way. You're going to have a whole bunch of alignments to describe this. You're going to have an alignment coming up the left side of the site here. You're going to have little stub alignments for each of these offshoots. You're going to have different alignments coming up around the other side, so on and so forth. So I usually leave this as none for storm design. You might use that in sewer design if you had one long branch of the conveyance system that you're pulling, going from one town to the next, so on and so forth. These labels, again, we covered that in the sewer class as well. They should really say plan structure, label style, and plan label style, or plan pipe label style. So if you select the label style there, you want to, of course, make sure it's one of the styles that says plan, and would come down here to storm plan. So what's that going to do is when I start placing structures and or pipes, it's going to automatically throw a label in as it places the structure. If you leave that to none, it just doesn't put the label there. You can label it later. So really operate the way you want there. And again, you can turn that on or off at any time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK at this point. And it's going to bring up the network layout tool for this specific network. So you can see this network is storm site. Now in here, I can go into my pipe network properties, and I can change any of those settings. So if I go to the information tab, here's the name of the site. So maybe I could change that now, and I want to change this this network to storm site 2 for some reason. You can change the description, go to the layout settings. You can see here's my label style. I could turn that to none at this point if I wanted to, so on and so forth. I can change my part list. I can change my surface, my alignment, and also, here's a key one, I can change my description. As I'm placing structures, I can change how it's going to name those. So whenever you're doing storm or sewer, you're probably going to want to, as soon as you create that network, go right into network properties. And typically you're using this toolbar from the left to the right, and you're going to want to go in here and edit this so that your structure name makes most sense for what you're going to do. You know, most of the time I'm going to be placing inlets here. If I was doing sewer, of course, I'd change this to manhole, so on and so forth. If I click on this little naming template icon here, I can see what numbers it's going to start with. So since I have some parts in here already, it has a pretty high number. You'd want to make sure when you start a brand new network that that's set to 1. Okay? And you can change, you know, the naming, the number style, if it's just going to be whole numbers or 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digits, so on and so forth. You can even have different things in your structure name. So you can have you can put the network name a part of it. You could, this is the next counter, just adds a 1, 2, 3. This part name, part size name would have to do with the pipe or the part catalog. Probably wouldn't mess with any of that, but you can if you do want to mess with it. And you can also say that maybe I only want my inlets to be even numbers. I could start at 2, and then this would increment by 2, so you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so on and so forth. This is the pipe names. I typically just leave that alone. Pipe names really just let the system take care of it. There's some other choices up here for when it adds the parts to a profile, if it automatically labels them or not, and which labels to use. Same thing for cross sections, just what layers are going to be on, and there's some statistics over here. So that's essentially it. Here you can select the different surface on the fly. Instead of going into the network properties, you could just do it right here with one click. Same thing for alignment, same thing for switching part lists. And I don't know if people realize that all that often, that you can switch your part list. So say I need to place an existing structure. Well, just switch your part list to Storm existing, then go ahead and place that structure, and then maybe switch it back. So you can switch these on the fly and get different parts to choose from here to place in the drawing. Again, I'm going to place some additional inlets and manholes. So you'd, from this point forward, you'd probably select what you want to use here. Today I'm going to use some nyloplast inlets that are available on our template now. And I'm going to use some HDPE. You go ahead and do your pipes and structures and draw in a downstream direction and place those. So that's all well and good. That's, you know, you can see hundreds of videos on how to use this toolbar from this point forward. I'm going to show you a little different way to use it that I think is a little more handy. And I already have a network set up, so I want to use that. So I'm going to close this for now, go over, and you can see where those networks reside. So if you do mess up and you want to delete a network, you can go ahead and do that. One thing you want to look at in here is you can see that a network with structures and pipes in it will have like this little square with a dot looks like a top of a concrete monument symbol. And if the network's empty, has no pipes or networks in it, or pipes or structures in it, you can see it doesn't have that symbol. So I can feel free to go ahead and delete that, not worried about deleting any data. The network I'm using, I already have in the drawings, is Storm network here. So I'm going to go down and to use that to edit some more information here. To access that same tool, design tool dialog where I can place new structures, I have to edit this existing network. So I can either right-click on one of the structures, either an inlet or a pipe, and I can hit Edit Network, or I can come over to the prospector, right-click, and hit Edit Network here. That brings up this toolbar. So now I'm connected with that network, and that's really important. You definitely do not want to have a network for each run. You want to have all your Storm in one network to a point, and I'll discuss further on the setup there of how you know, certain items you might not want to have in the same network. You might want to have certain inlets. For instance, your outlet structures in a separate network, and I'll talk about that a little further here, and you'll see why. Like I said, I want to place some, you know, storm drainage down through here. So how are we going to do that? Well, I need to get an inlet first. So let's go up, and I want to place some nyloplast 24-inch 2x4 top or 2x3 square top inlets. And pipes, I'm not going to do pipes right now. So I'm going to go and select structures only. Before I do that here, I want to verify that my surface is the surface I want to use. And here it's not. I actually want it to represent or reference off my FG surface, not my EG in this area. So go ahead and check and verify that. I also want to verify that my alignment is set to none, so I'm good there. Okay, structure, that's correct. Pipe, don't care about right now. I'm going to go down and hit structures only. I'm just going to go and place an inlet. Okay, now this inlet is named sort of funky, so let me name it more accurately. And here's another thing that I see people commonly doing. They'll want to change the name of this inlet, and so they'll change the text. And this is an overall theme of Civil 3D. You never edit the text. You always edit the model. So to change this from structure 37, I don't edit this text. I edit the model. This text is referring to this inlet. Well, this inlet's name is structure 37. So if I right-click on this inlet and I hit structure properties, you can see right here, it's called structure 37. Well, I want this to be called I4. Okay? As soon as I hit OK, it's going to change that text to be I4. It's the same thing for Civil 3D. Just always remember that for any other object in Civil 3D, you're always editing the model, not the text. Okay, so I want this inlet to be placed right here on my property line. Now this road section you can see is a little different here. It's a wedge curve, so the road goes at 2% across slope, and then it goes back up at the very edge with the pavement, and it creates this little wedge, creates this little curve here. That wedge curve is approximately 1.5 feet away from the edge here, where the crux of that wedge is. So I want to get that inlet placed right in there. Well, feel free to use Civil 3D just like you have with other parts, at least for the structures. I'm going to use my align command, AutoCAD align command. I'm going to grab that inlet. I'm going to use the middle of it. I'm going to bring the middle of that inlet and snap it to, so it's going to take using the AutoCAD align command, it's going to take the middle of that inlet and put it right to the middle of the apparent intersection of this 1.5 feet offset and this property line. Then I'm going to take the end, and I'm going to snap it to the side. All right? So I just use my normal AutoCAD align command. And since this label is associated with this inlet, it pulled the label down with it as well. Okay, so that's how we do that. At this point, I can set my my crosshairs, and this is a little trick, where I'm going to just draw a little reference line on top of my alignment, and then go up to my HRG pull down here. And under HRG pull down, I'm going to go to Utilities, and then I'm going to go under Crosshair Set. What that's going to do is it's going to have my crosshair be on the same rotation as that alignment. Okay? Then I can take this inlet and do a copy on it. Just pick any reference point, turn on my ortho, and say I want to come up a certain distance. So the next place I want to place an inlet, just from eyeballing it, because that's typically how you run conveyance design. You sort of eye in, you get a feel for how far inlets need to be apart, and so on and so forth. I want to have that inlet reside, as you can see, right on the property line to the left here, right here. And that's around 150 feet away. So I'm just going to type in 150 and hit enter. Okay, so that took that inlet, copied it up here. Now it didn't take the label this time, but it took the inlet, copied it up here, and now I'm right, they're exactly 150 feet away from each other. So I need to get an inlet on the other side here. At this part of the road, the water is just going to sheet flow off and into this little rain garden, but up here I'm still want to collect some. I feel I'll have too much gutter spread at that point. So I'm just going to use my AutoCAD mirror command. I'm going to grab this inlet. I'm going to mirror it about the center line. It asks me if I want to delete the old object. I'm going to hit no. So now I have an inlet on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing for both these inlets. Now I'm going to copy them both. And I take them up, and I'm going to go around 150 feet again. And you can see how we can quickly use, our AutoCAD commands, and this is how you were probably placing inlets in the past. You have a block, and this is really representing the same thing. What you don't know here is that, if I look at this structure, It's not just this, an AutoCAD block. It's an actual Civil 3D pipe network part. So if I bring that up in Object Viewer, you'll see, that's an actual 3D part in the drawing there that we've been copying around. Okay, so from this point, I need to connect all these pipes together, or all these structures together. So I'm going to go back up to my toolbar up here. I'm going to switch to my 15-inch HDPE, and I'm going to go to pipes only. Now, a lot of how we're doing this today and a lot of what we're going to do, okay, I got a question here. If that is a model, wouldn't mirroring the object flip it upside down? Oddly enough, Chris, it doesn't. It's AutoCAD, you'd think it would, right? But the design team got it right on this one. When you mirror a structure, it does not flip it upside down. I guess just in the definition of how an inlet is made, they recognize that the top needs to always be pointing up. So it does not flip it around. It works just fine. So mirroring a structure works fine. So hopefully that answers the question. But very good question. Put your hand down on that one. To get back to this, I want to connect all these pipes together, or all these structures together. So I'm going to go back up here, make sure I have 15-inch HDPE, hit my pull down, and hit pipes only. Now, where I left off, a lot of how we're working today is driven by the interface between Civil 3D and HydroFlow. So Civil 3D doesn't care, the program doesn't care which way you connect the parts, but HydroFlow does. To import this successfully into HydroFlow, which we're going to do in just a couple minutes, you have to have all the pipes drawn in the same direction. So, for example, this is showing that I'm drawing my pipes in the downstream direction. That's the way I need to connect these inlets, in the downstream direction. So my workflow recommendation for everybody is place your inlets throughout residential or commercial. Get them placed. Determine your low spots. Get them all placed. After it's placed and it's time to do your conveyance design, then come back and connect all the pipes together. And when you're doing that, knowing where all the inlets need to be, or your first guess at it, you'll be able to accurately get everything connected together in the most optimal manner, keeping the pipe segments as short as possible and getting all the inlets connected. So really on a normal design, you'd have, sort of this example where you'd have a whole bunch of inlets and manholes, but you really wouldn't have anything connected together. And I think that's how we were working in the past. At least that's how I always have been working, and it really hasn't changed with Civil 3D. So I'm going to connect my pipes at this point. I make sure, you do pipes only, and make sure you always draw them in the downstream direction. To connect the pipe to a structure, you have to get the cursor close to the structure and wait for this little, looks like a bullseye glyph. And that's very important that that glyph is there before you left-click the mouse button. So I can see it there. I'm going to left-click the mouse button, and that connects the pipe to the structure. I'm going to go to the next one. Do it and wait for that glyph to come up. And just keep doing that. Just keep coming down. Avoid the temptation to go up and connect this one. If you do, that would be drawing this pipe in the upstream direction, not the downstream direction. You have to pass that, so go past it. Go down to I-4. This is all going down to my rain garden down here. Let's go ahead and click that as well and end that out by just hitting enter. I want to connect in this lateral pipe coming across. So I'm going to do pipes only again, and then come back and connect those in. Okay? Wait for my autosave. And I did want to show you, as you're bringing those and connecting those down here, let me just show it real quick. I'll just delete two of these. Say I wanted this, the last couple, I forgot to change this up here. So I wanted to bump that up to a 18-inch HDPE pipe. So I'm going to reconnect this one here, come down to here, and say I wanted this last one to be a 24-inch. Well, I can just go up to the selector here, choose 24-inch for my drop-down, and then snap that in, and that gives me a 24-inch pipe. So Civil 3D is doing some of the drafting, too. Notice that the pipes are a wider, the 24-inch is drawn wider than the 18-inch, which is drawn wider than the 15-inch. So we're getting, design and drafting put together here. Drafting a byproduct of our design. That's our big ploy with Civil 3D. So now we have a little system drawn down through coming into my rain garden here. What's the next thing we really need to do? Well, the next thing is really, I want to throw an alignment on this and see what we have here before I take that into HydroFlow. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the design tool. I already have an alignment sort of set up here, and I'm going to use that, and I'll edit that one. Actually, let me make a new one here so I can use this next feature. I'm going to hit the Civil 3D drop-down, and I want to go under Pipes, Utilities. I'm going to hit Create Alignment from Network Parts. So what this is going to do is an alignment is totally separate from a pipe, but it's going to use the parts and where their insertion points are and create alignment. So I'm going to hit that command, and that's under the Pipes pull down. And where people lose it, it's under Utilities under Pipes. So make sure to hit both of those and create alignment for network part. And it says Select Connecting Part. Now we drew in the downstream direction to connect all the pipes together, but usually profiles will go from the downstream to the upstream. So I'm going to go ahead and click that most downstream structure. I'm going to go all the way up to the top, click the most upstream structure. And you can see it figures out what pipes it needs to connect to. So if this system branched off, it would know, that tracing route to get up to that top inlet. So just hit enter. It's going to ask me for a site. Of course, we always leave that as none. Always have your site set to none. Always, always, always have your site set to none. And I'm going to call this Storm Enrolled. And I'm going to use the style HRG utility existing and proposed. So that just gets my alignment on the right layer, so on and so forth. This next select in here, the alignment label set, I'm not going to throw any labels on this. No stationing is going to be on this alignment. And yes, I do want to create a profile view. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And on that profile view, I want to show my existing and proposed surface. So I'm going to highlight them both, hit Add, and that's going to sample both those surfaces. I do need to remember to go in and change the style for the proposed. So I'm going to click on that style, hit Finish Grade, and I'm going to go hit Draw in Profile View. Can switch some of the settings, some of the styles here. This is going to draw the profile from the left to the right. I really want to draw it from the right to the left just because of the way this is sitting out here. I want it to draw the profile with station 0 on the right-hand side of my screen. I do need to always go down, if you're using this command to create alignment from profile or from pipe parts, you always do need to come down and hit Pipe Network Display just to verify the parts that are going to show up in the profile. If you don't click this, it won't actually add the parts to the profile view. If you forget, you can always add them later. And I'll turn some of these off so that you can see that. So I'm going to turn off these last two structures just so you can see this. And everything else you should be able to set the defaults with. So I'm just going to hit Create Profile View. I'm going to bring that down, and I have a whole bunch of parts here already. I'm going to go ahead and hit Add, or click, and pick another spot there. And you can see it drew all or added all the structures to it, except for these last two. So what if I messed up? I didn't click that, and I didn't get the structures added in that I needed. How do I go back and do that? Well, let me set my cursor back to 0, and how you get that cursor back is you go type in snapang, S-N-A-P-A-N-G, and set the variable to 0. And I have some viewport, or I want to split my screen into 2 views. I'm going to use viewports, split it into 2 here. And I come back up to plan view, and I want to add these last 2 structures to this profile view. So to do that, I can always just go to Pipe Pull Down, Draw Parts in Profile View, This is one that gets people all the time. By default, it's set up to add the entire network to this one profile view, which is not good. Don't do that. Make sure to always hit S for select parts only. Then just select those two missed structures, hit enter, and then grab the profile view, which is the grid, and it'll add those right in for you. Now I need to label this, so let's do that. I'm going to go to General, Add Label. So we talked in boot camp, everything is through General, Add Label. Go down to Pipe Network. I'm going to do entire network profile. And my two styles I'm going to use are HRG Storm Profile Propose and HRG Storm Profile Propose there. Hit Add, and then select one structure and it labels everything. Okay, so that's, a little tight here. I can grab this and slide this over so I can see my network parts and so on and so forth. And maybe for you, see a couple people here. Maybe for you Hermitage guys. See if they're too close together, it doesn't really work out. But maybe for you Hermitage guys, if you need them to be labeled as a dimension, you can go ahead and do that there. And then you have that dimension label. But we have a problem. The inlet names are a little goofy here, as you can see, right? So I have, I4, and then I copied it up. So now it's I4-1 and I4-1-1. 2, whatever, it doesn't make sense, so that's no good. So how do we edit that? Well, just for effect here, I'm going to go and change my labeling to single part plan, and I'm going to change my structure label to HRG Storm Plan Proposed. Hit Add, and you can see I get the same names up there as well. Okay. I have that label there. So to change these network part names, I can go to each inlet and change them individually. So to do that, I can say I want to change this very top one. We're going to call this, we're just going to start, I have some other inlet numbers going on here. So I'm going to call this I4, this is 6A, this is going to be 20 and 20A. So if I want to rename this, I can just go to Structure Properties here, call this I-20A, and look at the plan label and also the profile label, and I hit OK, and it's going to change both for me automatically, okay? So I could do that for each one. Another utility you have in the toolbox here is you can go down to Pipes again, go to Utilities, and rename network parts. So with rename network parts, I'm going to select the first part to rename. And in this example, I'm probably not going to go through and click OK with it, but you can click this, the inlet at the very downstream end here, and go to the inlet at the very upstream end. And it's going to rename the inlets, in that direction. So this would be maybe 1, inlet 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, and hit OK. I'd have to make sure to uncheck the rename pipes because I don't want to mess with my pipe naming, just sort of let that take care of itself. But I'm going to start and call that I dash and then the counter, and then I'm going to start at 1. And then down here you have some options that if you already have an inlet 1, is it going to skip that number and go to 2 and see if you have a 2? And if there's a 2, it's going to skip that and go to 3. And if there's also a 3, it's going to skip that and go to 4. So you're not renaming other existing parts. Or say you want to trump all that and you do want to rename the entire system, you can hit rename existing parts, and it will force that to rename. Again, you'd hit OK here. It would rename. Go ahead and do that. I don't want to do that for today's example. Just trust me, it's really not that big of a deal. Just you'd hit OK, and it would go ahead and do it. I'm going to actually rename these manually because I have some more stuff I want to show you here that I need to keep this model sort of intact with the design I did already. Structure properties on this one as well. We call this I-20, sort of go with the manual approach. But whatever you do, please don't start editing the text. A lot of people edit this text and they go down here and they have to edit this text too. It's a waste of time. Just edit the structure, and then both update automatically. Then when anybody else labels it in some other drawing, it would be correct as well. I6, structure properties, I6A. Okay. All right. And if you've been paying attention and taking notes, you also notice something that you never got with Land Desktop as well. You know, when Land would draw these out, these would all be at 0 elevation, and they'd be like stepped. In Civil 3D, it actually takes a whack at a design based on some rules and constraints. And what you can do is you can adjust this, these pipes at any given time, and I can reset those to those rules or constraints. So, for example, if I hit close on here and go into my prospector, and I go under the Settings tab, under Settings I can go under Pipe Networks, or I'm sorry, Pipes and Structures, and then each one of those you have this pipe rule set and then structure rule set. So there's rules that the storm pipes are going to draw themselves in by. You can see them here. The storm pipes are going to be a maximum cover of 15 feet, a minimum cover of 2 feet. They're going to, if it's a pipe-to-pipe match, no structure in between, it's going to have a 0 drop in between the two pipes, and they're going to match inverts. Pipe length check, I really don't know exactly what that does, because if it's over 400 feet, you know, it's not going to add a structure for you. Maybe it will tell you. I've never really got into that. But those rules are set up for you already, and you can change those and add. There's more rules in here, and you can move them up or down. And there's some information in the help here. Depending on what order they're in, it will change the effects you get. Changes the effects of rules, appearance and dialogue, starts rule display from the bottom of dialogue, and at the rules at the top. So it starts following the rules from the bottom to the top, I believe. So check out the help on that if you want some more on that. Same thing for structure rules. If I go to HRG storm lines, you can see here I have the sump set to 0 feet, so I'm not having any sump on these inlets. And my pipe-to-pipe match is going to match the crown, and there's going to be 0 drop. So I'm matching crowns. Sometimes people might want to change that to invert and have a 0.2 drop, for example. So you might need to edit those, depending on what you want to do. Now, say I just did make that change. Well, do I have to redraw everything in? No. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to come up to my Civil 3D pull down here, go to Pipes. I'm going to hit Apply Rules. I'm going to apply rules. It says at the command prompt, select upslope part in plan. So I'm going to come to the pipe here, select this high end inlet, and then it says select next down. Well, the dialogue's a little, or the command prompt's a little not very descriptive there. You don't have to select each one going down. Just go to the very end and select the last structure. Again, it does a trace routing and it knows where it needs to go. Just hit OK, and you'll see that readjust to follow those rules. So now I'm not doing a crown match anymore. I'm doing a drop. Now the drop, it made more than a 2/10 drop because I have a pipe size change here, and it's trying to keep a minimum cover and so on and so forth, and it's trying to keep those slopes down to 4.5. Sets them at a nice slope increment there as well. So you have that. Now this one little crossing pipe, I might need to redo that one as well. So I'm going to go up to pipes again, apply rules. I'm going to do 6A to 6. Hit enter. It's going to do that, and then also do save that. And you can see it didn't really make an adjustment there. Okay, so you can get a design set up in Civil 3D for yourself just by using those rule sets. Another question. I guess Chris is typing the question. Okay, Chris, I see you have another question on there. If you okay. Can you set a specific structure to have a sump? Of course. So say, for example, I4, and I wanted that I4 to have a sump. Maybe I have a snout in there. Well, I can do a couple things. Chris's question was, can I have a structure with a set sump? Sure. And I want to take this structure, and maybe I want to graphically just come down, I don't know, 4 feet. So I type in 40 because it's, profile and extrusion, so on and so forth, and hit enter. And now that inlet has a sump. Another thing I can do is right-click on the inlet in profile view or in plan view. Either way, it's the same dialog. I can get the structure properties by clicking on this inlet up here, or I can get the structure properties by clicking on the inlet down here. And if you go to your part properties, there's a whole bunch of settings in here. One of the settings right here is sump depth. So if I want to specifically 4 feet of sump after the using the outlet pipe, go 4 feet down from that, that's where I would set that. If I wanted to set it to a specific elevation, you can see I can toggle that to elevation. Now I can set that to, a specified elevation. Another thing that's really useful in here is you can tell this to either the top of grate to follow the surface. So you can see this structure is referencing this finished grade surface. So that's down here, automatic surface adjustment for my insertion of rim behavior. It's set to true, so it's following the FG. So if I move the inlet around, the surface automatically, or the rim automatically goes up and down following that surface. And I can also have an adjust value. So I can say adjust by -0.2. So it's going to take that surface elevation, subtract 0.2 of a foot, and that's the top of grate. So watch down here, my top of grate. This should change to a 0.34. Hit OK, and you can see it took the top of grate, that surface, and as I move that around now, it will hold that. It will always follow the top of the finished grade surface and subtract 1/10 or 0.2. Another thing you might want to do here is switch label styles then. As you can see, I have this sump elevation, but this label style really doesn't show me that. So if I right-click on this label, hit Edit Label Style, I can hit this drop-down here, and you can see some other labels in here. One of those is, let me make this a little bigger. One of those is HRG Storm Profile Proposed Sump. So turn that on, and now you can see I have that sump elevation in my label. And as I move that sump up or down, of course, you'll see that sump elevation label automatically adjust. Okay? So if that answers the question. Another great question. Okay, so now I have this preconceptual design. You do that on a mass basis for your entire project. And I really need to get and design this in HydroFlow, put the water on it. And I would do exactly what we showed here. I would get the pipes drawn in, get some alignments cut, and show them on there to get a preliminary layout. That would probably be the fastest workflow that you can do. And I have an alignment over here already that I have some things drawn up on. And we'll come back to this in a second because I want to show you what happens when we edit this whole network and how that interacts with HydroFlow. So let's take this out, and what I like to do is put the water on it, put the storm design on it and see these pipes, the sizes we've sort of guessed at from using our past judgment, are big enough and have the right slopes and everything, so on and so forth. So to get that into HydroFlow, I'm going to go up to my Civil 3D Prospector here, and I'm going to go down and find that network. So here's my storm network. I'm going to right-click on it and Export XML. Okay. And if I right-click on the network and hit Export XML, it instead of trying to include all this data, it knows right away to only just do that one network, which is what I want. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, of course, you'd probably place this in your P drive directory structure for your project, but I have something set up on my desktop. So I'm going to place this XML. Usually what I like, I leave it the same name, but I call it out of Civil 3D or out C3D XML. Hit save over top of the one I have there already. And I do need to do an edit to that XML. And let me show you why we need to do the edit, or show you what the product we're going to get if we don't do the edit, and I'll I'll do the edit for you so you can see where we're going with it. So to bring that XML in, I'm going to go to HydroFlow here, hit in, out, do the import, hit browse, of course, grab that XML file, hit OK, hit open, select the network down here, select networks, see if 17 objects going to bring in, hit import, and it imports everything in. But the problem is with the XML, when it exports that out of Civil 3D, you notice the inlet name, it changed it. It now is I-15 space colon storm, and that storm is the network name. Well, this runs into a naming convention problem, taking stuff back and forth. So what we want to do is edit the XML to take out that storm part. So how do we do that? So I'm going to close HydroFlow down, not save it. We're going to go ahead and edit this XML quick. And it's really easy. Just right-click on the XML, hit Edit, opens it up in Notepad, and you can see here's the names. You can see the code of this XML and how it works. So I want to edit that name now. Do I have to go down through and delete all those? You could. You'd be crazy, but you could. The easiest way to do it is just go up to Edit, hit Replace, and I'm going to do space, bracket, storm, bracket, okay? Make sure to include that space up front there. I'm going to replace it with nothing. Hit replace all. Goes down through the entire doc, and you can see now this just says inlet 15. So that's what you want to make sure you have is, between the quotes there, you want to have just the inlet number. Go ahead and save that XML, close it, go back into HydroFlow, import that back in again. You're going to hit open, hit OK, select it, select pipe networks. You always have to check that checkbox and hit import. And now you can see my inlets are just the straight up name. Okay, so at this point, what's nice about it is you have this design fully imported, and this is something that you wouldn't have from Land Desktop either. It would be brought in as runs, and then you'd have to do all kinds of manipulation in HydroFlow to get them all connected together. With Civil 3D, it's one consistent network. Now, typically in a design like this, this outfall. It's not the outfall of the basin; it's the outfall of the conveyance system. So let me switch back over to Civil 3D here and show you what I'm talking about. That outfall is here, so the end wall going into the basin. Let me switch my viewports back to make a bigger view here. That's the end wall going into this basin down here. Then I have this end coming. This is actually an upwell coming into this rain garden, and then it takes over to this basin over here. So you notice I don't have my outlet structures. When you're doing outlet structures, you'd make a network for those, but I would definitely go up here, hit Create Network by Layout, and make a new, maybe call it Pond Outfalls, and have a totally separate network to house your pond outfalls. Why do I say that? Well, because in HydroFlow, the conveyance design software, this software here, we don't analyze our pond outfalls in that. We analyze those in a totally different software. So you don't want those coming in with XM, you don't want those a part of the import. So you'd have to delete them all the time, and you're going to round trip this data a bunch of times, and you'd have to keep maintaining that. It's a real pain. The easiest thing to do is just have a totally separate network. So I'm going to go ahead and select type M inlet, and maybe we'll do an RCP outfall and structures of pipes, and then I'd have my outfalls, of course. Outfall is now drawn in for Civil 3D purposes. You can make a profile of that, do whatever you want, but technically that outfall, you go back into Prospector now, is in a totally different network. So when you make the XML, you don't get those outfalls. That's what I recommend to do there, definitely. Okay. So going into HydroCAD here. In HydroCAD, or HydroFlow, I'm sorry, there'd be a lot of work in here. And I'm not going to go into all that detail, everything you need to do in HydroFlow. For more details, if you want to start doing that kind of design, if you go to the Engineering and CAD Resources page, and you go to this How-To Videos General, and go down almost near the bottom, there's one right here called Hydrology and Conveyance, and there's a video here that shows you how to use HydroCAD, HydroFlow, and HydroFlow Express, the 3 stormwater packages we have here. It's not exact. I trimmed it down some this morning. It's not exactly 2 hours anymore. It's like an hour, 15 minutes or something like that. But I would go through that, and that gives you the ins and outs of how to use HydroFlow. It's just one of the softwares in here. So I'm going to assume, we've done that, and I have a file here. At this point, I'd save it, of course, to my P drive project, and be off to the races and change structures and so on and so forth. So let me close this here. I actually have that done already. All right. The dialogues keep opening up on the other screen here. And you get something like this. And you can see in this initial iteration that we did, we don't actually have that I-20 or I-20 and 20A up there. So I brought this data in before the class here, and I designed it all up, but I didn't have this I-20, 20A. So maybe the I-20, adding the I-20 and 20A was a revision. So how do I get that into here now? Well, with Civil 3D, you can now round trip the data as much as you want with this Excel spreadsheet that Brandon Harder generated. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have this file. It's all designed, hit run and, analysis. And, everything's good to go here. You can see if I look at this as pipe 5 up to pipe 7, so I can come over to here, show you pipe 5, pipe 7. And that's that current design that's on there right now. Okay, so it shows you a little profile of it. If I make adjustments in here, I can come back up and hit in out. So say I did bring it in, and I changed the designer, changed some inverts. I can go to export, and the critical step here is you have to hit update an existing XML file. So imagine I made some changes. I want to update an existing XML file and hit Browse. I'm going to grab that original XML I made out of Civil 3D and hit Open. I'm going to select the storm network and hit Export. And now what's sort of funny here is people get stalled, and I did the first time too. At this dialog, you're like, well, what's it want me to do? You're thinking it's going to go edit that XML, like it says, update existing XML. Actually, it just reads it, looks what information it needs to take out of the current design, and it's going to ask you to make a new XML. So here's where I make another one, and I call this into Civil 3D. So that's why I have the out of, and then I have another one called into. Then it's just a workflow I use. There's plenty of ways to do it. Some people just use the same XML. They don't do the into, out of thing. So I'm going to hit save. And the reason I have this error right here is because of there's not a match. So if I have I added more lines here. Well, my design in HydroFlow, I just wanted to show you that process. But, my design in HydroFlow doesn't have those lines in it. So it's looking in the old file, can't find them in what it's trying to update, and it gives me an error. I really need to have those in my new file. So how do I do that? So it is important that you and your designer get on the same page, or if you are the designer, that you get all the inlets in, you design them, and then you take them back out. If you're going to add new inlets to the line and you've made adjustments in HydroFlow, get the update back into Civil 3D first, then add the new inlets, and then bring the data back. So let's do that right now. Let's close this. I have those updated lines in here, and I want to take that now, into HydroFlow. Hitting my drop down here, I'm going to go browse out to a directory that you guys all have on the R drive, and it's R templates HydroFlow. And this is that round trip worksheet they have. So it's R templates HydroFlow. Right click on this and hit open. If you're not prompted for this, you must get prompted for this, where it asks you to enable macros. You need to have your macros enabled. Go ahead and do that. And it's asking me, this is sort of the step-by-step process of how to update the existing HydroFlow file with the new inlets I just added in from Civil 3D. This is something you couldn't do in Land Desktop. First step is I need to put in the path of the existing HydroFlow file. So let's go ahead and get that path in there. And it's a little, just manually, there's no browse button there. It'd be nice, but there's not one there. So I need to just copy the path, drop it in here, and put in my file name, okay? Once that's in there, I'm going to hit Update. Click here to create a backup of the inlets and pipe properties of your HydroFlow file. Okay, did that. Told me, backup's created, hit OK. Okay, good. Export XML file from Civil 3D. Well, we did that already. We already have that out of Civil 3D exported file. So we're good there as well. Now it says to go ahead and import the XML file into a new HydroFlow file. Okay, so let's open up HydroFlow. And I'm going to import that XML file. So I'm going to hit in out, hit browse, and import that file. Okay, and import. Now you can see it brought in the raw data. These are all, manholes, and nothing's really set up. If you go into any one of these structures, they're all set to manhole. All these values are zeroed out, so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And where I want to save that is I want to save right on top of the existing file. And that's why it made that backup, that first button, it made a backup of it in this directory for you. So I'm going to save right on top of my old file. It's a little scary, but trust it. Go ahead and do it. You always have that backup. So I just wiped out that design I had, which was all complete. And what I'm going to do at this point is go back to I'm going to save on top of that, close out HydroFlow. Go back to this Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to hit Restore. Click here to restore data. So what this is going to do is it's going to take the new layout and attribute all the HydroFlow properties to it from the old design. So I'm going to hit that button. It's going to ask me, what do I want to carry over? I want to carry everything over. You can uncheck certain things here if you didn't want to do certain items. Hit OK. Hit OK again. Please make sure all instances of HydroFlow are closed. Yes, they are. HydroFlow data successfully restored. Excel will now close. Okay. So I'm going to open up that HydroFlow data file now, and let's see what we got. The dialog keeps going in here. Oop. Cancel instead of open. And now you can see I have my design all connected back together. These are inlets and all set, and the bypass flows are set, so on and so forth. If I click back on I6, you can see it has data in here now for the road cross slope and, everything that was set up during the design phase of this. But now I have I-20 and I-20A as a part of this file. Well, of course, they're not designed, right? I have to design this. So I have to go into data and change this to generic inlet, do my road cross slope, 5 to gutter width, so on and so forth. Local depression, 2 is road, 1, 2, so on and so forth. Rectangle, length is 3. And, you know, go through and do that for inlet 20, 20A, you know, go back into inlet 20. I need to enter a drainage area, so on and so forth, and reanalyze the system. Now, if I wanted to take this back, so for example here, I'm going to take, go look at line 5 up to line 8. So I'm going to hit Profile, line 5 to line 8, hit Draw, and say these top 2 pipes are 15-inch. Well, maybe I design it now. I have those in there. Design it up, and I figure out that 15 inches isn't cutting it. They need to be bigger than 15 inches. So let me change this to an 18-inch pipe. Okay? I'm going to grab one of those, design, change this to 18. 18 here, sorry. 18 there, okay. Okay, exit. And next for line 8. 18. Click on that, hit OK, exit. Validate that that's set correctly. Go to 5. Go to 8. Draw profile. Okay, 18-inch, we're good to go. I'm going to save this file now. And now I'm going to do that export step to update Civil 3D. So I'm going to go to import here, or I'm sorry. I'm going to go to in-out, go to export, update existing XML file, hit browse, grab my out of Civil 3D file, hit open, select the network, hit export, select the same file to get the naming template down. Back to Civil 3D, makes the file, close it, close HydroFlow so your designer designs everything up. Meanwhile, you know, you or somebody else or whoever got all the profiles set up, but they still say 15-inch. Go into Civil 3D here, go to File, Import, Import XML. Browse to my directory where I have that file saved. Hit Open and hit OK. It's going to go through the system, check all the inlets, check all the inverts. It's going to do a little zoom out on me. And then you can see it updated those pipes to 18-inch. Text all changed. And up here, these lines got wider to appropriately reflect an 18-inch pipe. You can do, so now maybe you add some more inlets, or maybe I swing this, and we're pretty much done there, but maybe I swing this manhole down, or this pipe coming from I-15 down to here. Well, if I did that, I'd need to export the file again. Do an out of Civil 3D. Yes, it's going to replace it. I'd need to go into that, take out the, and this is something people commonly forget, out of Civil 3D, you got to make sure you take out the storm part where it says, you know, bracket storm, space, STORM, replace all, close it, save it, open up my, open up the worksheet here. Enable macros. Of course, you do have to copy and paste that directory path in there again. Okay. Hit that button there, backs it up. So I have the backup there. Did the export to Civil 3D already. I'm going to import that into a brand new HydroFlow file. Out of Civil 3D, open. You can see now I-15 is connected here. I'm going to save that. But all my other data is blank. Notice how all these are set back to manholes now. That's no good. So we lost all that design customization to really show what the design is like, them as inlets and so on and so forth, road cross slopes. I'm going to save on the old file, close HydroFlow, then hit Restore Data. Click OK. Goes through, searches the inlets, click OK again, goes through, searches all the pipes, updates, and closes this file out. Now if I open that Conveyance design file again, basically it refreshed it with the data from the old file. So now you can see I-7 is coming down here, connecting in. This green line here is the bypass, so if this, whatever flow bypasses inlet 15 is going to go down to the next one, so that's correct, and so on and so forth. This line, we set this back to be an inlet when we first brought that in, set all these slopes, set everything, so on and so forth, and that's all there for us. So you can see with Civil 3D and that Excel spreadsheet how we can get drafting by a product design and round trip the data with our design software, HydroFlow, as many times as we want. Is there any questions out there? I don't see any hands raised or anything come up on the board. We're a little bit over. So if I don't see anything, again, as always, I'll be here for another 15, 20 minutes. If you want to just simply call me on the phone and have a question, we can go through it or answer the question on the webinar software. But thanks, everybody, and I hope this helps.